There we go. So we're rolling.
How you doing, Darcy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Just wrapped up a session. It was a nice day, so I took the kids where I do the Eastney Flatland Academy down to local tennis courts where I grew up riding, sort of around the time when I was competing in the X Games, like 99, 2000, that kind of time. I was doing a lot of rolling tricks at that time, backwards backpackers and stuff, and then, start riding in tighter areas, because the contests were going that way. And I found that it influences your style of riding. So I wanted to switch it up a little bit, and ride not necessarily my favorite spot, but it's a smooth spot, but it's really good for rolling. So, and tonight I got backwards backpackers again, so really stoked on that. It's like a move I haven't done for, I want to say, like 10 years.
So you sent me a photo of it. That was sweet, man. So you did that while you were just chilling with the kids you were teaching?
Yeah, I was teaching one of the kids, Arthur, how to do pull-up bars because I was telling him about the FISE event in Montpellier and Alex Jumlin's Flatland School, and I sent him a few videos from the Instagram. I was like, hey, you need to look at this and what these kids are doing. And I was explaining to him like how to do a cyclone tonight, along with Peter, who's also at the session tonight. And we were explaining how important it is to do things like a basic pull-up bar. So you pull out of a cyclone and your bars are backwards sometimes if you do it that particular way, and you automatically take it for granted that you're going to spin the bars. But of course, for Arthur, he gets stuck on it and doesn't know what to do.
Hmm.
So as a beginner, I'm like, you've got to learn all these basics, and then the more basics you learn, the more fun Flatland is because you've got a bigger palette to pull from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I remember when I was talking with Marty, he talked extensively about making sure all the beginner like basics and everything were buttoned up really well. So that's good you kind of go back and show someone like that the real necessities of the crossing your T's and dotting your I's with a lot of little tricks like
Well,
that.
yeah, I think you can definitely tell riders that have spent the time to master their bike, and you can definitely see the people that haven't, because just in the way that they move and conduct themselves on the bike, it's something I pay personally quite close attention to from years of doing what I'm doing, Flatland obviously, but also, I grew up riding a skate park, and the more things you can pull from, I always say, there's no bad tricks to learn. Everything can be useful at some point. Like tonight, I learned opposite cyclone, because I was like, okay, Arthur, I'll make you a deal. If I do it opposite, you've got to at least give it a good go.
Hmm.
And then, of course, he has me learning it opposite. I mean, it's fun.
That's great. Have you been teaching people for a while?
It's been 4 years now that I've been running the East Knee Flatland Academy. I have a little indoor spot. It's about 2 miles from my house. Perfect spot, especially on the winter nights. I'm very grateful for it. And then I coach like once a week, every Sunday, 5:30 till 7:30. We're busier in the winter because the next indoor park is like an hour each way from Southsea. So some guys can't afford to travel an hour to a skate park, so they want to ride. And I'm like, well, come and join in the session. And I sort of treat it like I just call it bike skills. Like some of the park guys, they want to do like a hot bar mani to bunny hop whip out, and it's on a flat. That's incredible. But they're like, oh, this isn't Flatland. I'm like, well, it is, but it's building your skill repertoire. It's on the ground. It's Flatland.
It's Flatland.
It
So is
is, and
that
then they can't do a thing like that. Sorry.
so is that spot like is that the ones you have in your video that it's like a looks like a pickleball or sorry, not pickleball, like a squash court or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically one squash court. Yeah.
Dang, that looks sweet, man.
Yeah, it's literally perfect spot. I mean, I used to have another which was actually better than this spot, but
Okay.
I was searching around for a place to ride, and then I was talking to my boss who helps me at the skate park, and she said, "Oh, why don't you try this place?" And then I went around with my girlfriend, and we looked at a series of places, and as soon as I saw that place, I was like, "This is it. I need to get this." And they let me ride there 3 times a week plus
not good parking lots and on shitty courts and stuff, and then for the people to benefit from making a few bucks off of it. That's a really really nice setup for everybody.
Yeah, perfect. Really, like, wish I had that kind of setup when I was used to be competing in competitions. But hey ho, I'll make the best of it, and still working on new tricks and working on a new part right now. Actually, but I keep getting drawbacks. We've had an injury, like a torn rotator cuff, so that sort of been plaguing me since March. And today was about the best I've felt on the bike. So hopefully, I've been to physio and stuff like that, and starting to get to the end of it now, and I can get some decent riding in again and start hammering out this part. Pretty stoked on it so far.
Wow, that's great. So you're filming a new video part.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man.
It's good for me to have a project, as much as I look after everybody else with Flat Matters Online. It was a big sacrifice doing the website, actually, because it affected my riding quite a lot, in the sense of, you think of the amount of messages I get on the daily, like, can you post my video? And like, whereas I used to just go and ride, and now it's like, oh, I've got to do this, and then I've got to do my skate park work, and then I've got to do whatever else personal stuff that comes up, personal life and everything. So it's difficult some days to even get a session in, to be honest, because working in the summer I can work like a 13-hour day, and then it's like, damn, I'll just get home at 10:30 at night. Oh, I can go to the spot, maybe, but I'm just so tired. It's difficult sometimes to get to the spot.
Yeah, I get what you mean, man, because it's like during the day when you're out and about and all you want to be doing is off riding. During the day, it's real easy to think like, oh, I can't wait to get home and go ride this evening or something like that. But like you say, by the time you finally get home and get settled, and especially in the winter time when you're just zapped from it being cold and miserable out, it's like the last.
I can't settle. I literally have to come in and go out. Otherwise, I'm done.
Wow, that's cool, man. How did you hurt your shoulder?
It's pretty embarrassing, actually. I was drying the skate park, and I was wearing some old shoes that didn't have much grip, and I forgot that they didn't have much grip. So basically, I dry this on. You can imagine I've got to run an outdoor skate park. It's called South Sea Skate Park. It's like famous from the King of Concretes that run for 17 years, Dusty. So it rains a lot in the winter. So I guess it was like March, and it was still quite cold. And it must have been like about 12 o'clock, which we opened the skate park at 12 o'clock. And I'm walking up this ramp. It's like what do you call it? We call it in and out. It's basically, so it's like 4 foot high, and then it has a curved section on the top. They use it at the FISE sometimes. So anyway, I'm like, oh, the ramp's still a little bit wet, so I'm going to put a barrier on the top so people know not to go on it. So it's wooden ramp, right? So I'll walk up, put the safety barrier on there, and just deck it so hard.
Oh, dude.
And I just felt like a snap on my shoulder, and I was like walking around the skate park going, oh, no one saw that. That was really embarrassing. Like, get up, act like nothing's happening. And then I got home and I didn't think anything of it. And then a small thing like putting my backpack on, I was like, wow, this really hurts.
Oh, bummer.
And actually today is the first time I put my backpack on without it hurting. And I was literally said to my girlfriend, I'm like, whoa, it didn't hurt. Because I'm now 2 weeks into this workout program I've got from a physio friend of mine who also I do road bikes with, Dom, just around the corner. He like deals with Olympic athletes and stuff like that. And I previously had another bad accident, fell down a drain, and my leg got just lacerated. It was easier to tell people I got, ate by a shark than.
Oh, yeah. I remember those photos you posted. That's crazy. I completely forgot about those.
Yeah, that injury affected me quite a lot. Just in like, I wear shin pads now, and I have a real mental block with just trying to take the shin pads off. I'm just thinking, oh man, if I hit this, because the surgeons did such a good job on it, it actually stopped the circulation in my leg, and I was getting like a sharp pain, and I would literally lift my leg up, feel the sharp pain, and I would just keep doing it. When you've got an injury and you just keep checking yourself, and then if it hurts, you just carry on for some reason. I always do that. But this physio literally fixed me in 10 minutes, he started rubbing my leg. He's like, I know exactly what this is. They've sewed your leg back together so good. You just need to massage your leg where the repair was done.
Wow. Yeah, that was a absolutely horrific looking cut. That was so bad.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly operation and everything, pulling the metal out, and yeah, horrible.
Dude. Well, I'm really
Definitely don't walk across any drains, kids at home. Like my girlfriend used to say to me, "Oh, it's bad luck to walk across a drain. What are you talking about? Never again."
Wow, that's crazy. So it just let loose and you fell into it?
The drain was cracked, and then I walked over it. It was like a stupid accident that you could never do again. I think just my luck, really.
Wow, man, that's crazy. I'm really glad you got over that, because that would be to have such a freak accident put you out of riding for the rest of your life or something would just, yeah, that'd be super sad. So
Yeah, I was thinking I was done when I did that.
I bet, I bet, man. Yeah, it looked like a car accident or something like that. Like,
Yeah, it was bad.
yeah. Well, I'm really glad you're all right, man. The world needs you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So
I
I think
appreciate all your messages. One of the hardest things with running the website is, I'm doing this on my own. It's just a labor of love, but in the sense of what's hard about it is I never know what people are really thinking. So, I'm just posting what I think is, good. I feel a lot of responsibility for doing the website and, to also help young kids. I answer a lot of emails that people don't see, like helping kids, like where do I go for this bike? Why is everyone riding a 18.5 in Japan? Explain, that the kids over there are small. If you're taller, you want to go to a longer frame and how that can help you. Zero offset, regular offset, front load stems, top load stems. You get asked a lot of questions. Seat post height. Why do people drop their seat? Never ending questions. Tire pressure, size of people's pegs, it just never ends.
Yeah, well, that's really great that you do that, man. I mean, for somebody like, especially now, like nowadays with the internet and everything, like you can reach out in like the blink of an eye. And especially you're really good. Like I've asked you a ton of questions and you hit me back almost right away. It's like, that's pretty unique that people nowadays have access to people who are veterans of the sport. Just whether it's knowledge on bike setup or tricks or like,
Yeah, it's an amazing tool. Sometimes I feel like you go back to like the intricate parts and when like Martin, everyone's smashing it with new stuff, and you would never see those tricks until like a contest. I remember when he did the front wheel Undertaker, like in real life, and I was just like, holy shit, that wasn't even anything relative to what he was doing at that time. Bang, like where did that come from? But now that would be on Instagram and it's just lost. For me, it's like that's why I started that hashtag too good for Instagram. Like some stuff people should just leave from a major project. That's what I feel like from running the website, like it's pretty important that you hold on to some stuff, not just almost whore yourself out. I think some people are just like desperate for attention, whereas put together a good part and it's something you can look back on for years, and people do. There's thousands of examples, where you could go from. But I think it's better to have something of substance rather than just one clip that you swipe left and then you forgot about it straight away.
oh, you're absolutely right, man. It's like you see people, like you say, who put clips up every day of things that they're working on, and it's almost like tipping their hand to what they've got going on for the year. But then there's somebody like Dominic, or they show their stuff off in contest. That's about it. They don't do
I mean,
video.
there is the flip side of, you're like a pro rider and you have to be in the light.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Matthias, I think, does it quite well. He emails me. It's almost like a portfolio of what he's doing every month. And then there's like little subheadings, and you can just spend an hour on one email with Matthias, and you're just like, wow, this is crazy, the amount of depth that he's got, but also the amount of professionalism to actually take the time and the thought to do that and give something back to the sponsors as well, which the guys that are at the top, like Matthias, they do have that. He has contracts where he has to fulfill certain things, which I think he does really well.
The amount of work that guy must put into everything in every regard, whether it's contests for starters, like being dialed enough to do what he does in contests is crazy. And just the his video parts that he puts out every, depends how long it takes to put them out.
Yeah, he has this year. I'm looking forward to. He told me he's got like 4 tricks or something like that. He's got like 4 tricks ready for it. But I know he's super busy, like doing his modeling and everything he does. Like I remember straight after FISE, I saw him in the hotel, and we were eating breakfast, and I'm like, he's like, off to the next trip, and I'm like, where are you going? He's like, Alicante. I'm like, for what? Like, there's nothing going on. He's like, Vans trip, dude. I'm like, no way. Do you ever stop?
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, man. Like you know as well as I do that being on an airplane fucking sucks. Like it's hard to do.
Yeah, I always ask him. I'm like, almost every time I see him, I'm like, how do you do this?
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I respect him a lot for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for someone like him who's wanted it since he was a little kid, that's a dream come true. As long as it's still fun, it's travel the world on your bike. That's amazing.
I mean, if you could have been at FISE and you see how loud the crowd were, it's just like the only thing I couldn't explain it or give some kind of analogy. It's like in soccer when someone scores a goal and it's like tense, and then the crowd just erupts, and you're like 5,000 people screaming. You're like, oh wow, it was pretty intense judging at FISE with that amount of crowd. I've never seen anything like it, Dusty. Like never.
I have a group chat with several riders kind of around the area here, and we all made sure that we were able to watch it live. And a couple guys are in Vancouver, a couple guys are here, but we were texting the whole time through it. And I think we almost talked in the group chat more about how amazing the crowd was, like aside from the riding. It was just, even watching it on a screen, it was very unique to see an environment like that. I was lucky enough to go to the Edmonton stop last year in Canada, and it was sweet. But it was nothing compared to what that was. Like that Montpellier stop. That's a goal. I want to go to that one sometime.
Yeah, it's definitely like a unique setup. Mateus posted something saying that there were like 612,000 people at that event. I'm like, that is absolutely mind-boggling. But if you've never been there, it's basically like a canal setup. The event's on a canal, and I was lucky enough to have a hotel that's pretty close. But you could walk into the event, and you would literally be walking for 2 miles, and there's something. And if you catch the wrong time of day, good luck. It would take me an hour and a half to get to Flatland.
Wow, just that many people to work your way.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, at one point I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. And then the next day I was like, right, give myself another 45 minutes, go early. And I went the next day, there was no one there, and literally straight to the flat. And I was like, wow, awesome.
That's great, man. I like that. Yeah, that whole event, I was so impressed with just the grandness of it. Like, because to see Flatland on that stage is really special. With just the emphasis.
Area as well. It was like 5 feet off the ground. Like Arena, the girl that rides for 4 pegs, she was doing cross-handed whiplashes. And she would literally set up for the cross-handed whiplash and do the whiplash on the last point of the floor, and she's going to deck it. And I made a joke out of it on the dance floor at the after party. It was pretty funny. I was doing BMX moves on the dance floor, and I did like a cross-footed, gestured for a cross-handed whiplash, and crashed into a door.
That's great. So you're traveling quite a bit for FISE, like, because not only have you traveled for the just for the events themselves so far this year, but you've traveled just like there was a couple judging panels that you went to ahead of time, right? Because was it a structured thing where they were starting to set up the UCI judging for the year?
Yeah, I got invited to go to Barcelona, which, hey ho, one of my favorite cities in the world. This year I've been lucky enough to go to San Francisco, thanks to Pete Brandt and everyone that got me over there, but also Barcelona, which I call like the European San Francisco, basically is what it is. And yeah, they've taken the time to invite us all over there. There was myself, Lexi Dusselnew, Michael Steingraber, Ryan Russell, and did I say Kataro Tanaki? And yeah, and then Hank and Van Homan and Kevin from the UCI were there, and we discussed judging. They got us to watch people's runs and score them, but also got us to talk about why we're giving a score. Why did you give that guy 94? And I would talk in detail, like 10 minutes about Dub's riding or something, Mateus's riding or whoever they picked. I think one of them was Alex Gimlin, looking back. And to be honest, it's the first time we've really gone into depth, kind of like how I do on a personal note, like running the UK Flatland Championships with Matty Hemmings. Matty organises the event. The first time we judged, we were back at the hotel, and I was like, okay, right, get your laptop out, and I want you to sit over the other side of the room, and I want you to score this run. So we're going to both be on the same page when we're judging. And we would basically do the same kind of thing. We both look at people's runs and point out certain things and be in the same range of score. It's quite important you're in the same range of score. Otherwise, it can affect your average quite a lot, which is quite nerve-wracking when you're doing live scoring at FISE.
Yeah, it seems like it's a massive responsibility, and it's kind of seems like a subject that is always, it's kind of like a referee in hockey. There's always somebody who's unhappy with the job that you've done. It's like,
yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the beast, but I think as long as you can like explain to somebody that does have a problem why they scored that score, I don't think there is a problem. So, you know, also right after a contest is also the worst time for that person to be complaining. They're not objective with what they actually did. You know, I mean, it's not a good example in a way, but Dub completely messed up his run and he didn't make it to the finals, but he totally understood it. That's somebody being objective. He's like, yo, I just had a bad day. And I'm like, yeah, I couldn't believe it. But the riders are giving us information, and it's down to the judges to put the information down into the form of a score. And you know, it's about your performance. It's about the originality, the difficulty, the style and flow. And also for me, it's really important is the execution of what you're doing. Because you can do a massive combo and then lay the bike down like a sack of spuds, and it's like, it wasn't. Would you put that in a video part? No. Would you? Why would that be in a contest then? You've got to. Then you could sort of say, oh well, perhaps if that guy did a no-touch run, and it was incredible, like the most up-to-date bangers, but he laid the bike down, let's say 3 or 4 times, you could sort of say, I scored. Let's say he scored a 96, but what if he did it clean? There has to be a difference, you know?
Yeah. I think like the way everybody seems to just have like more of people seem to be really reassured when you're there now. It seems like it kind of is reaching a point where it's like, okay, we kind of know that the people who are judging these events are following kind of a similar guideline with each other, because there's certainly other competitions where judging seems to be kind of a mystery. People get results that they're not, you know, nobody really expects, but it seems like the job that you guys are doing it's really reassuring for a lot of people. And I think that's one thing I've heard from like quite a few people, whether it be on comment threads or just whatever. But it's yeah, it's cool, man. You're doing a really good job of it. And I think like with the platform that Flatland's starting to be on, to have kind of a standardized judging format like that, where everybody kind of knows, you know, a ballpark of what you guys are looking for and everything. I think that's great, man. Like you guys are, yeah, it's nice to see like a consistent good job being done of the judging.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. We got a great team. You know, Bart de Jong is a guy I grew up with sharing zines. Like I used to make a zine, paper zine, totally intense. And he runs Fat Magazine, which is still the Fat website today. So it's kind of rad that, you know, these people are still around in the sport and care about it. And they put a lot of work into it. I mean, who else flies you out to Barcelona 2 days to talk about judging? Who does that? I'm pretty honoured to be asked to be the head judge for the FISE World Series, with the guys from the UCI. And I take a lot of pride in my judging, and I practice as well at home. So like when I came back from Montpellier, for example, I started looking at some stuff, and you on stuff like you would with your own riding. That's my sort of philosophy on it. I always believe that bad judging breeds bad riding. Whereas like if you have a judging that's on point, it's like I think it can improve the competition. Like Rio sets the standard in Hiroshima, and it's game time in Montpellier. The guys know, and then Dom threw down an incredible run, and deserved to take the win. So now it's all on to Chengdu, and you've got no. I never have any idea who's going to win. I mean, could you pick that Dub wasn't going to make it?
No. It was when the final 8 came through, I was just totally blown away. But that's the cool thing about Flatland, is it's at a level that is that difficult that the slightest shit day for somebody could make that much of a drastic difference.
But it should be like that. I think in the past it's like certain people have had bad days, and it's not reflected in the results, and they're not bad days.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this can have an opposite effect on somebody like Dub. Dub could just come back swinging. I mean, I know he already posted that junkyard turbine thing on the pedal. That was crazy. So the guy's motivated. It does, sometimes. It's sometimes a good thing to not always be at the top. For me, it's like it is a contest, and it is about performance at the end of the day. Otherwise, let's just all hand in a video part and have done with it.
Yeah. That's a common theme with like sports psychology and different athletes. Is it's almost like a loss or a bad performance like that is 10 times as motivating than a podium spot. Guys come home on fire. They're determined to never let that happen again. And it with guys who are competing at that level, like there's something in them that has gotten them to that place. So I'm excited to see Dub next time. Like guys like that tend to get motivated by not letting that happen again, and it's everything he's done in most other stops is nothing short of impressive. And yeah, I can't wait to see more. I love watching contests.
Yeah, I mean it's also rad, just from my years competing, and also just being a fan of Flatland, to be able to watch these things, and to be like important in the result and stuff like that. So I take it pretty seriously to elevate the sport. This is a really good chance to take things up a notch and do the right thing, and let's take Flatland to the next level. I'm all about it.
That's great, man. It's interesting to hear you talk about it too, because judging is kind of like, it's something we don't know a lot of the nuts and bolts about. Whether I don't think people need to know exactly what the judges are looking for, blah blah blah, but I think it is really cool for people to hear just the stuff that you just talked about, where you practice judging almost the same way you practice riding. And that's
the last 2 years I've been doing that.
That's really impressive, man, because I didn't know that. Like, I know a lot of people won't know that, and for people to know that you do that, I think it's cool, because it gives the contest that you attend, people feel reassured that they're going to get a fair crack at everything, and that's great.
Yeah, I've had a lot of messages of support from my work at the FISE, so I'm pretty stoked on it. People I didn't even expect to hear from, fire me a message. I really appreciate all the positive comments. Also, some of the negative ones are good sometimes as well. Like, it can't all be positive, but I think the FISE is really like going off at the moment. Like, I'm buzzing for China. That's going to be incredible. I mean, got Cologne next as well, that's always a crazy contest. I would say it's the best floor of the year, and it's the one contest that it has a lot of history, and I won the world championships in Cologne in '94, so it's always carried a big torch for me. So I think it's the one contest that's kind of respected a lot. Like in skateboarding, you have like the Tampa Pro every year, and Cologne is that event for Flatland.
Wow.
It's the event that you see people mess up their run where they normally hit it all the time, but it's pressure.
The mental side.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great, man. I can't wait to watch that one too. That's a contest I'd love to go to. It seems like a
It's
blast.
definitely, yeah.
I've never been to Germany either. That'd be a fun one. So
That or Montpellier, I would recommend. It's just like, wow.
that's sweet, man. Do you think like kind of the example that you're setting with the judging is something that will transfer over to other contests as far as like, judging panels through other organizations, maybe saying like this is a kind of a model that we need to start expecting from our judges and stuff?
I think it possibly could, but don't see. To be honest, it should already happen. But I guess it's fueled a lot from me personally. I competed for like 30 years, so you put your heart and soul into practicing, and then you see someone just pluck out a score, and you're like, this doesn't equate to the amount of time that I've put into this for someone to just sit there and go, oh, that was a no-touch run, Effraim, 75. Why? Why 75? Can you explain it?
Hmm.
And I think you should be able to explain it, like in some form, because it's an objective sport. You can always say, oh, this and that. But if you take the care into it, I do think it can make the competition better, which I think is already happening at the FISE stops this year. And also, Cologne is always so tense. Like the atmosphere is just incredible. So that event as well is on a level as well. You got like the Voodoo Jam, you got the AFA contest. James always flies me out to the Battle of the Rockies. I always enjoyed that one. There's a lot of the bike days is also another good event. There's a lot of good stuff on the calendar. So I think Flatland, we're pretty lucky at the moment with everything going on, because if you don't like the UCI stuff, then that's cool. But then you can go to, another event, like maybe bike days. You can go to Flat Arc, you can go to the AFA events, you can go to, there's so much stuff, whatever you want to do.
Yep. Yeah, and like you say, James's contests and stuff like those all look like an absolute blast. And, it's, yeah, right across the board.
It's a pretty hard thing to do, like to start your own event, like, and have people come to it, like, and support it it's quite, you're almost on a no-win basis, really. So, or anybody that organizes a contest, like, I have a lot of respect for, because from running the King of Concrete with my dad for 17 years, you you put a lot of time into it, and when people, I can't be asked to go, you're just like, really? It's 2 hours from your house. And it's like, it's hard sometimes. I mean, I'm sure James will know what I'm talking about. It's hard not to take that stuff personally, but it's not personal. But when you put a lot of time into something, it does feel like that. Flatlands is a very personal thing, so I think in a lot of ways, it can just come across like that. So anybody that organises a contest, more power to you. You just have to concentrate on the details. It's all about the details for me. Like, is it a good floor? And is the judging on point? Is there some good tunes? That's something that I think that could improve across the board, is the tunes. Definitely need some better tunes.
You're a big fan of hip hop, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, man. It's
MF Doom, like, religiously at the moment.
you find it like when I get a new album on my phone or something new comes out, or I find an old album or something, it's motivating to ride. It actually is like an investment in my riding to have a good, source of music. And hip hop especially is, I listen to a lot of different types of music, but yeah, there's something about it. I don't know what it is, but it's
all part of I just chat, I listen to hip hop and drum and bass when I'm riding, because, me and Pete Brandt listen to the same kind of music. And he was playing tunes, and then when I was at his house and he's scratching over the top of it, I'm like, man, this is Flatland right here. What you're doing is just all part of our culture that we don't show, and we need to.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I was gonna before we move on from judging, I wanted to, because you being a judge now is kind of interesting, because you, especially at an event like FISE where it's a big event, very important, especially when it's going to be kind of a qualifying thing for the Olympics, hopefully soon. You have been on the other side of it, where you were competing in really big events, a lot,
Yeah.
like you say, for almost 30 years or so. But like,
Yeah.
obviously, like some of the bigger ones like X Games and things like that, that's
Yeah, I did the
basically
X Games 5 times. Yeah.
you've been there and done that. So you have
Yeah.
a real sense of what those guys are doing and what you experienced on, the flip side of that coin. So that's pretty unique to have a guy who's a head judge who's been there and done that with bigger events.
Yeah, I mean they have a great pool of judges. Like in Montpellier, there was Frank Lucas. That I used to compete against. Frank's a top dude, and he knows his stuff. And it's awesome that they go in and get all these people together. And you got a nice mix. You got Frank, then you got Alexi, and then you've got Ryan Russell. And then Hiroshima. Michael Steingraber was there. He's also one of the best riders, and he's from the same generation as me. Where we did all this stuff, and we do take a lot of care into it. And we can be discussing for hours afterwards, but I'm like, you just got to make the score there and then. We
No,
can't sit here and discuss it.
that's great, man. Did you what was it like competing in X Games?
Always, the first time I did it, completely nerve wracking because I looked at my image on the jumbotron and I was like, oh shit, that was a bad idea. And then the next time I went back, I did really well. I went to the X Trials in Louisville, Kentucky, and qualified first, just ahead of Trevor Mayer and Andrew Farris. And I was a lot more focused and realised what I did wrong in my mess up from the previous one. So I just took a few things and changed what I was doing. I mean, I had all brand new tricks as well, which did help. But then I got to the second one. I was a lot less. What's the word? I was able to shut out the hype. If you just stare at the hype, it can just totally mess up your flow, and that's what happened to me the first time. So the second time round, I was ready for it and did a lot better. It was good. I think I was 6th place, something like that's pretty good. I was happy with it.
That's amazing, man. See, like I remember watching, I think I've said before on the podcast, I was more of a fan of street and ramp and things like that.
Yeah,
But just the spectacle of the X Games was like, it was like a term in pop culture that was massive at the time. And for Flatland to be a part of it, that's pretty cool. And then of course it went through the next iteration where it dropped Flatland and started moving on to, bigger and crazier sports like motocross. And, now it's a totally different thing. But it's cool to see Flatland kind of have that resurgence on the FISE.
yeah. I mean, I would liken the X Games a lot to the FISE. It feels like similar. The FISE is the modern day X Games for me.
It seems like Flatland's on like a really prominent arm of the FISE circuit, though. Like it's
Yeah, I mean, it's the last event in FISE Montpellier. That shows you how big it is. Like it was after Pro Park. That's crazy.
that is crazy. That's amazing. That's really cool, man. It gives me a lot of hope that Flatland's getting that stage for the people that want to see that stage. That's I don't know if you listened to the episode I did with Bobby where we talked about how
Yeah, Bobby's my dude. I love Bobby.
yeah, me too.
Bobby, we out here.
Yeah, it's cool. Like we talked about how it's interesting how Flatland has that spectacle again, but it also has the flip side for the people like you say who aren't totally down with the UCI thing. But it's like the smaller little contests, and even more so, there's the little jams here and there all over the world. And
so much stuff going on. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah,
Even running the website, it's like, damn, I've missed that. I've missed this. Like, because not everybody sends me updates. Like, and you sometimes have people message me, "Oh, why didn't you post my video?" I'm like, "Why didn't you send it to me?" Oh, because I can't spend all day searching. Like when I was building up Flat Matters Dusty, I would search quite a lot for new videos and stuff like that. Because I was wanting to get like an archive. That was the whole idea, was to have an archive of everything going on in Flatland, a place for people to go and be able to find anything they want. Like you could just search in the search bar and go, "Oh, I'm going to search for such and such a person," and it's there. That's sort of like what I was going for.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just I'm getting away from what you asked. What did you ask again?
I don't know, man. Just ramble on. All good.
Yeah, I've stayed with Bobby a few times, and he's like one of the raddest dudes in the game for me. Like he's the guy that fully understands the culture of what Flatland's all about, and
Yeah.
he's a guy that through his Diversion video magazine made Flatland a better place. As cheesy as that sounds, but it really is true.
No.
He's a guy that's really still really important to the culture of what we do. I mean, to me, the cultural thing is like a big thing. I was talking to Pete Brandt about it for hours in San Francisco, and he's like, dude, what are you talking about? And I was like, we have to love ourselves in order for everybody else to love us.
Yeah, no, it's great because like you and Bobby have you content, like you provide content for the Flatland scene, and you know it's yeah, it doesn't sound cheesy to say it like you did at all. It's very valuable, especially I've been riding for what, like 6 years now, which is not a long time, and I very vividly remember my first, like, couple months of being obsessed with it, and that kind of content is so valuable, man. It's like
Yeah.
for a beginner.
How did you get into Flatland? What was the thing that pulled you to it?
So my wife and I used to ride, like I said, I rode ramp and park and stuff and a little bit of dirt jumps when I was a kid, but I was too scared to get hurt. So I ended up just totally giving it up. And I was playing competitive hockey pretty much my whole life, but I was really kind of getting to the end of my rope with hockey. I was like, I don't know, the team aspect was kind of wearing a bit thin with me. So I went on a trip to Europe with my wife, and we were in Amsterdam, and then it was a beautiful day out. It was like May, I think, and we just decided to go for a walk through Vondel Park, and then we came out of Vondel Park to across this canal to this place that I now know is called the Lido spot.
Yeah, six spot.
Yeah, and just completely by chance, Vicky Gomez was there practicing, and I just sat because I knew what Flatland was, but I just sat there and watched him for, I didn't talk to him or anything. I was just sitting like, maybe 100 meters away, just watching him practice. And it was just one of those things, man. Like it just connected with me. I was just like, this is it. Like, this is absolutely the perfect thing for me. And watching him like work on stuff and then, hit some really, like, for him, easy stuff, but like, just the way he was working through his practice. And I didn't even know it was Vicky or anything like that. I just was watching this real good dude. And then when I got home from my trip, like I had decided, I'm like, I'm buying a Flatland bike and this is going to be awesome. And I started adding all these dudes on Instagram, and I just came across this hashtag of Flatland, and it was Vicky riding that exact same day in Amsterdam. And it was, I just couldn't believe it. So I've since told him that story, but it was such an impact.
I don't think I've ever seen that footage, actually. You'll have to tag me in that. I don't recall it.
Yeah, I could find it. I have it on my Instagram. It's way back, but it was wacky. It was totally crazy, man. Like it was such an impactful moment that I just was like, this is it. Like this is totally the perfect sport for me. And it's proved that every time I go out and practice, whether it's a good session or bad session, it's just, I don't know, there's just something about it, man. It just immediately, even before I got my bike, I was obsessed with it.
Yeah, it can definitely like make your day. Like if I don't ride and then I go and ride, I realize that, you need these things, like, and sometimes I've been injured and then I go and ride, and like if I have a back injury, you're often worse to just take a rest. Like it's better to go and ride because your body's so used to it, and it's like that's quite hard to explain to people that you're going to go and ride even though you got a back injury. You've been crouched over your bike for 35 years and you don't know any different.
Actually, one topic I really was curious about with you, because you have been riding for, no joke, about that amount of time, and very commonly a lot of people, you run into, they're like, oh yeah, I used to ride when I was a kid, and whatever, people just grow out of it, whether they were serious with it or not. But you are in a very unique position where you've kind of, not only have you found new parts of Flatland, like the judging and putting on King of Concrete and stuff, but it, like, you found a way to stay active with riding over such a long time, and that's really unique, man. How do you really think you did that?
I just truthfully just love riding my bike, and I've gone through each era learning every particular style, and it just kept it fun, and I always try and be as critical of myself as I would be if I was judging. So, I quite often working on this new part, like no pumping, and I'm trying to like concentrate on my head not moving too much. Pretty obsessed with that at the moment. So it's like I just want everything to be super, like, almost look effortless and solid. Like, I hate it when people are like back and forward, like try and have a better style, I guess. And it's just that gives me motivation to the next, the next session. I'm just like, oh, I could do this and I could do it better. Like, again, or I can learn an old trick like I did today, backwards half packers. Like, I used to throw that trick like it was nothing. And now today I was stoked just to do one. And it felt new again, and I was like, and as soon as I landed it, I'm like, oh, I can do this. And then my mind just goes off in, multiple directions. And then I can like, oh, how can I get to that trick with no pumps? How can I do this? How go back and relearn that switch? So I cut out all the filler of that particular pre-existing trick, and then it becomes brand new. And pretty stoked on the way riding's going at the moment. It's just got to hold off on the injuries. It's just like sometimes quite demotivating, to be honest, but just keep at it basically every day that I can. And I try and also go out when I want to, whereas I used to just go out all the time, and I found the sessions are a lot better when I'm like, I really want to ride today, I'm going to go out, whereas I used to practice in the rain, pouring rain on a marble floor, which is not fun and terrible for your body.
Yeah, that's admirable, man, because it is a sport where if it's almost like the mind can fail before the body can in a lot of instances, where people just lose motivation or become interested in other things. And we see very commonly guys who are 50 and at least, and they're still actively riding. Like a lot of times, like I don't know, there's something about that really fascinates me. I've talked about being a fan of martial arts and stuff like that too, and that's another thing where there's certain disciplines of that are more favorable to, as long as somebody stays motivated, they can practice that art until well into the later years of their life. And that's really cool, man. There's much respect to people like you who have found a way to keep it fun and to keep it fresh and to still.
Yeah, like today, like I learned that opposite cyclone. I mean, I was thinking to myself, it's funny because I was saying to Arthur tonight, like, okay, if you even try this, I'm going to learn this stupid trick that, I learned when I was 12, opposite way. How have I gone 30 years without doing that opposite? Okay, 10 minutes later, it's done. But that's what keeps it fun, honestly. I had fun learning it opposite. I was like, I'm like, something new.
Oh, that's great, man. Do you think like the kind of peer aspect of where you have been with like competing at the top levels and guys like Frank, James, and like James White, and like those guys are still riding too? Is there kind of like a peer aspect of it that still keeps you really, and Pete Brandt, like those guys are all still shredding like very actively? Like that motivation has got to be something that keeps each of you guys going, I would think, like that community.
Oh, definitely. Like, especially Pete was like my childhood hero, and was the guy that I had on my wall as a kid, and I would just look at everything he did. And I was talking to him about it like off camera when we finished the interview, and I was just saying like the way he moved around the bike just got me stoked on Flatland. Like I was already riding, but stoked to another level, and I liked the underground car park, like the music, the whole. As I kept saying to him, the culture of it, like this guy is Flatland, like Pete is Flatland. You can go past the clock tower of San Francisco and you bet your ass he's there riding. That's just incredible. And he's still smashing it like really hard. It's just like, yeah, it's really inspiring. James is always, I competed against James for a lot of years, and he's always good fun to be around, and like the banter is just off the chart. I'm looking forward to that in Cologne already. Might have to film an interview there actually with James.
Do it, man.
What I'm worried about is we start talking in a very English slang and no one's going to understand a word we're saying.
That's funny, man. That thing you did with Pete was really, that came at a time where I was kind of just starting to get the podcast like going a little bit, and that was a lot of inspiration to me. I really I don't know, that was really well done, the thing that you guys did together. And
thanks.
You could just tell like you guys have a real friendship that has lasted a really long time.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible for me just to My mum actually cried when I said to her, Pete Brandt's organising a fundraiser for me to go to the One Love Jam, Mum. And she was just like burst out in tears because she knows like that was the guy that was on my wall as a kid.
Oh
And
wow.
I was just saying, I can't believe this is happening, and I can't even believe that we're 30, 20, I'd say like 18 years on from me idolizing Pete. We're like best friends. That's pretty incredible, and that's what BMX can do for you. You might have somebody that you look up to, Dusty, and in 10 years' time, you're best friends. That's crazy.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you
it
could
is
do a
great.
podcast with somebody, and then you hit it off, and then you're messaging. Pete's just coming back from an injury at the moment, the same as me. So we're talking about it almost every day. You've got your cat behind you.
Yeah, she's lurking up on me here. So
So yeah, I mean, it's a rad thing, and there's a lot of good people in Flatland, which is also, I think, one of the best things about our sport, and the art form side of it as well. There's guys still pushing and having fun, which is puts Flatland in a really good light at the moment. I think if you're on the outside, like all my park friends, look at Flatland and they're blown away by it. They're just like, this is incredible.
hmm. No, that's great, man.
Yeah, I was in Vancouver, I think it was 2003, something like that, for the Metro Jam. That was sick. Rode with Corey Stratt, he's the man. It was such a good time. And with Shane Neville in the Ronin days, one of my favourite eras ever was that Ronin team was so sick. And I guess the internet was just coming around then, because it was kind of a big deal to get an email. You're like, oh, just got an email. And it's quite nice. Shane came over and worked on a part with me. And to this day, I wish I could see it. I've done so much stuff on that video that never done ever again. Because
Really?
I took his word as bond. He said, don't show anyone what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, I'll have all new tricks. And he came and said, oh shit, you got all new tricks. I'm like, yeah, you told me to. So I did.
That's cool. I've hung out with Shane a few times recently, kind of getting to know him a little bit. Yeah, he seems like
Isn't he? I know he was, the last time I talked to him, he won an award for a phone design or something like that.
he's working in video games right now, I think. So I had a
Yeah,
sub.
yeah, I think he put Tony Hawk on a mobile phone, for example.
That's sweet, man. There's a lot of people in Flatland who are like gifted as far as technology and things like that. It's something I'm certainly not gifted in.
Yeah, look at like Dom and his like love for cars. Like he has insane like tech on his cars. Like I can imagine Dub doing a lot of stuff outside of when he ever stops riding. Like he's gonna have so many skill sets to go on using his life. It'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah, business oriented. Yeah,
Definitely.
one of those guys that's just got a knack for, I'm obviously competing and riding, but just a knack for the business side of it, which is something in Flatland, which is next to impossible to have a thriving business in. But he's doing really well with it. It's yeah, he's got a knack for it.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So with the website, like you've talked about it a little bit so far here, but like I really wanted to talk about kind of like a lot of people. So for people that don't know, it originally started out as a blog, right?
No, it started out as a T-shirt. I was riding for Adidas at the time, and they were a sponsor at King of Concrete. And there was a T-shirt that I did that said "Flatland Matters," and I based it around a logo of the Guardian at the time in England, and it said "Flatland Matters," and then it had the three stripes on each arm, a white shirt with royal blue, and on the back it said "at King of Concrete," and it was like a statement at the time that the X Games and everyone were kicking out Flatland, but Flatland still mattered at King of Concrete at South Sea Skate Park. So I teamed up with Adidas, and we gave away the Flatland Matters, sorry, T-shirt to everyone that competed. I mean, a dude at the UK Championships last year was wearing the shirt. I was just like, no way.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then it progressed to a page in Ride BMX. or UK Ride as it would be called for you guys. And he was always really supportive and would help me out with a little bit of money for doing it. And then he suggested doing a page which I called Flat Matters. You know, I did one also in Dig magazine that was called Flat Earth Society. But it really kind of took off in the Ride magazine, like thanks to Mark Noble. And then the print kind of thing was coming to an end, and I guess Mark was leaving the magazine, and he said, you should do a website or a blog spot, he might have said. And I said, I don't even know what that is, but I'll look at it. And I was in a skateboard one day. I started asking him about it, and they said, oh yeah, you can just go on this one here, and you can make a template. It's pretty easy to do and get started. And I remember when I started, I could only have original content because there were no videos, like no YouTube.
Wow.
When I started Flatland. So yeah. I was making articles every day, pretty much, when I started. And now 11 years on, it feels like a job, but you know, it's a fun job.
How has it changed over time since it's become flatmattersonline.com? Like it, because like you say, back then it started out with you having to do most of the work, and then now there's almost too much. It's like, you know, trying to drink from a fire hose as far as like, you know, content coming your way.
I'll tell you how it's changed for me is that I don't post everything anymore. I feel like I've got a lot of responsibility to, you know, take care of the details. And if somebody's already like posted an edit and it's very similar, then there isn't really a lot of point to post it again. Mm-hmm. Also, kids, like one kid once sent me a video of him falling off a hang five for 3 minutes. I'm like, I just can't post this.
Was it me?
You know, no, you can't do that, because I know he would just get a bunch of shit talking, and that might be the thing that gets the kid out of Flatland. You know, you don't know how people will take it. Mm-hmm. So I'm almost being the editor for you guys, if you know what I mean. Like I'm sifting through the crap to get to the gems, basically. But also on the other side, on the flip side, there are young kids that will message me, and you know, you can see a little something in them, and then I'll post that stuff because that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's a change for me as I finally learned how to do editing. So I started doing how-tos, which I need to get back on. Actually, I was talking to the guys tonight. We're going to do some stuff, and yeah, just giving a shit about what you post, and you know, a lot of responsibility towards trying to make Flatland a better place, really. And you know, somewhere where if somebody comes to the website randomly, they're going to be stoked on Flatland. That's a good thing.
That's a great thing, man. Especially the how-tos. Like when I first started, those were like gold when I would find some of those. Yeah. And you know, since I've started writing, you've put out a bunch. Matthias and Alex had that YouTube series for a while, and I don't know how many videos they did with that. They did a lot, but it's
Dustin Oltz just started doing one. That's cool. For me, like there can never be enough how-to videos.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, man. It's like there's as far as putting out content, whether it's how-to videos or website or podcast or YouTube series, there's no famine mentality. I think the more the better. And you know, you really encouraged me a lot when because I first was kind of humming and hawing over doing the podcast, and then you know, I took a lot of inspiration from your interview videos. You were doing like the video podcasts and stuff, and those were massively inspiring to me. And it was kind of like I didn't want to and I talked to Scott as well, because Scott had also started his little the podcast that he did, you know, 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to do it, because I didn't want to like make anybody feel like I was cutting their grass with starting a podcast. But just all around the board, from you, from Scott, like they were just like, no, fucking go for it, man. Like do as you want. And
actually, from my perspective, it's quite nice that somebody else is doing something. It feels a little bit strange for me that sometimes I feel like it's just me updating the Flatland world, and I'm like, this is weird. So it's nice to have other things where you're like, oh shit, this guy's doing this now, like a regular thing.
Yeah.
I mean, guys do want to have somebody doing a regular thing that helps motivate the flatland world. That's really my idea when I started the website, was how can I motivate people every day, like not just once a week, every day.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool, man, because it's putting an investment into Flatland, as you know, Bobby put it, as the ecosystem. It's like it's a lot of work on your part to do what you do, and it's a lot of work to do these podcasts, as well as, like, you know, shout out to Lionel and his YouTube videos he's doing.
Yeah,
It's like, but it's all stuff that
Lionel was like an incredible rider in the 90s, low 2000s. Not a lot of people know that, I think, from the modern generation. You know, they just see him talking on the interviews, but he's actually one of the best riders.
I didn't know who he was until, like, you know, relatively recently as well. I discovered who he was because I'd seen one of his videos and was like, I didn't know who he was. And then only to find
Yeah.
out, like, yeah, what a rider he was in the past. And all of that stuff is like just a lot of work put into the flatland scene, but it's an investment because it comes back with motivation. Like, people get pumped on it, and whether someone's like Dustin or whoever is making how-to videos, someone's going to watch those and learn, and we may get, you know, a handful of new riders out of it. And yeah, it's cool. It's good to see people put work in like that, because riding in itself is such a difficult and long journey. And for people to put out content like you and Lionel and like anybody that makes a how-to video, it's gold as far as somebody who's just finding themselves in the sport.
Really good characters in Flatland. Everyone's got something that they can contribute. You know, like Lionel is like a pretty intelligent dude that looks into the intellectual side of what's going on with the mind of the rider, which is pretty interesting in itself. Like, and also, like yourself, it's nice that somebody else is doing something. You know, I was stoked when I started hearing that he was going to do a interview series. I mean, it's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. Is there like I think of things like that as like the investments that further the sport and, you know, create scenes and give people things to talk about. What do you think are things that could continue to happen or should start happening that could further the sport and keep things moving as far as that goes?
I think the main thing that Flatland could do is, you know, more workshops and people. The thing is, it's not a quick fix. Like some people are quite lucky. Like Alex Jumlin's like living the dream over in Montpellier with his FISE Flatland Academy. The program's funded by the city, but you could see like the investment was worth it when you see like 25, 30 kids all competing in the junior, the kids, the women's, you know, they're building like a little empire there. You can, and it's pretty awesome to see that. But it takes a huge sacrifice for somebody to have the time to just, you know, I've been doing my academy thing for 4 years now. You know, there's sometimes where there's one kid turns up, you know, like Arthur's like the only one, and it could be a rainy November's day and we've got 20 people there. You just never know, but you've always got to have the time and provide the service to help people. I think that if more people did that, yeah, we would benefit from it.
Mhm.
But you can't expect to benefit from it in terms of a sport. You could spend a lot of time with someone and then they're just not into it. They go and play football or whatever, you know, go in Canada, go and get into hockey, whatever.
Well, that's good, man. It's something I hope that continues, and to see it. Even talking with Khaled, like, it's like if I hadn't talked to him about that, him starting that school in Saudi Arabia, like nobody would have known that that was a thing. And it's like it's cool to know that even
I think you can reach out a lot more than what a contest can, actually, because it's more engaging. Like, you're talking personally to the rider rather than watching a 3-minute run and then you never talk to that person again.
right.
So you're getting a like weekly. If you're doing it weekly, like I do, you get a weekly dialogue, you know, with riders, and it's really awesome to go through the journey with them. Like, I remember when Arthur first learnt his first combination of tricks, you know, like a series of 5 tricks that at one point were completely impossible for him, and I was explaining, look how far you've come, and then showed him his first video, and I was like, look at what you're doing now. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's great. That's good for somebody to have someone like you to kind of make them have that
Yeah,
objective look.
he was riding a Mafia, which is like a tank when he first started riding. So I gave him my old KGB. I was like, look, you can just have the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was just thinking it's just going to sit in my garage and rot away. So I was just like, it's good for me to see someone get some use out of stuff.
Oh, for sure, man. I can't imagine the appreciation that kid must feel for not only have you teach him, but yeah, to be hooked up in that way where it's just like,
Yeah, he's entering the King of Concrete in the 2nd or 4th of August. So I'm currently cracking
great.
the whip pretty much big time. Like tonight, I was doing like a little distraction training thing. You can sort of you can see a little bit of it on the Instagram if you follow the Eastney page on Instagram. You could see me like just messing with him a little bit, and I'm like, well, in a competition, anything can happen. Somebody can shout in the crowd, and it could put you off. Like you gotta be ready for it. I always like try and switch things up from his regular routine. I always try and live from my experience. Nothing's ever the same. You can't have perfect conditions all the time. So certain days it's really windy in South Sea. I'm like, let's go and ride outside. And he's like, why are we doing that? I'm like, let's make it as hard as possible.
Wow. No, that's good. That's good, man. It's for someone like you to be able to not I struggle to find a word for it, but it's like your experience can help put them in positions like that they would never do unless you had done that for them. So it's like to kind of speed up someone's progression and for you to find little things like that to help someone out. It's yeah, that's priceless to have someone kind of mentor you through those little ways you can cut. I don't like using the word cut corners, but you are kind of cutting off a
You
bit.
are, yeah, because when I started, like I would go away and learn stuff and often do it completely wrong or what I thought was wrong, but everyone has their own way of doing things, and I always try and just concentrate on simple things with Flatland. Is a lot to do with your posture mostly, and just drilling it into him, like, or whoever I'm teaching, that you have to do things over and over. You can't just get good at Flatland in a week. It's just not going to happen.
No, yeah.
It's a long journey, and it's better to have these basic tricks and become a better rider rather than just going for I'm going to go for a 540 kickflip hitchhiker trick. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and for some
learn a cyclone in both ways. That to me is like, that's more skill that will come out later in his riding. Like already you can sort of see a depth to his riding, whereas a year ago I couldn't tell you that.
No, that's great, man. That's invaluable for somebody who's, especially Flatland is so difficult. It's like that anything you can do to keep that motivation like real hot, and somebody, not getting tangled up on wasting time on things like that. That's amazing, man. That's really cool that you do that for people. Because yeah, when I first started, I would do exactly like you just said, like I'm gonna go out today and I'm gonna learn a hitchhiker. And it's like, I'd seen a bunch of different ways on YouTube that people get into hitchhikers, but
Yeah.
I hadn't learned how to do Carl Cruisers, or I didn't know how to do 2-foot steams or anything like that. And it's like, well, somebody could have been like, okay,
They're all things that go together to make the puzzle.
yeah. So it's like to have you there to instruct somebody kind of just, up the ladder of Flatland, where it's, you're working your way, into tricks like that and doing it smarter, learning more tricks, but you actually end up cutting off time because, you don't end up dicking around, wasting time.
Yeah, and also the other side that I've had quite a lot of feedback on from the guys that I teach and also the girls that I teach is that makes it more fun because it's not such a ball ache. It's like, what are you going to do? It's quite hard to practice a trick for 4 months and get nowhere. Whereas if you pick up little things every time you ride, then your motivation is bigger for the next session. And then long term, you're just going to have all these tricks to pull from, which makes you want to go and ride, and you got more fun out of it ultimately.
Right. Yeah, that's great, man. I mean, you saying it like this after I've kind of figured that out makes a lot of sense, but it's invaluable for someone like you to do that for people. So yeah, much respect to you, man. That's really cool.
Thanks. You're very kind, Dusty. Thanks.
Maybe one, like, before, I don't know, maybe we'll kind of cut this off pretty quick here, but like, how do you feel about Flatland right now?
In terms of Flatland, we have to sort of like the pro riders have to sort of realize if it is going to become an Olympic sport, like let's say it goes like park and there's like 9 riders, you really should have 9 no touch runs.
Yeah, that's
I mean, these guys should practice. You know, I remember when I used to compete against Marty and everybody, you know, Phil Dolan, James White, quite often we'd all have flawless runs. And it was just about who had the most original tricks, who was fresh, you know, pretty awesome like that. And I think it with the right judging in place, it can go back to that, going back to what I said about bad judging breeds bad riding. If people know what to expect, then they go home and practice their ass off, because that's all it is practice, and also working on your mentality, your mindset going into these events. Like, used to talk myself out of sometimes, you know, like I'd win one contest and then talk myself out of the next one. And, you know, it's hugely about your mindset. And I think right now is an interesting place, you know. So, you know, the playing field is like really open. And like you said, I think a lot of people feel like, you know, it's accessible again, which is an awesome thing.
It's an exciting time as somebody that's absolutely obsessed with it. It's amazing. I'm super happy of everything that we have in Flatland right now, and it's
And also, like, yeah, and then also outside of that, you have the video sides. You know, you have guys like, you know, Pete Olsen's a good example. You don't see him much, and then he'll just drop a hammer, and you're like, holy shit, that's rad. You know, like, and you have the, you know, the heresy guys. Of course, Pete's part of that. You know, there's people all over the planet, like the Category brothers. You know, don't see much video wise out of them, which is, I think, is a shame. But it'd be nice to see some stuff out of those guys. And then you've got that new kid that's on Colony, Rio. Keo, sorry, he's like off the chart. He's like one of them. I was talking to Dub about it in Montpellier. He's like, you know, arguably the most progressive back wheel rider right now. He's doing stuff that's completely fresh, and it's amazing. It's good for the culture. It's good for me. It's good for you, Dusty. Like, everyone gets stoked on it, and you know, it keeps the cycle going. And then you've got the older guys that are still in there smashing it. You know, Matthias is pretty much like a veteran now. He's been in the scene for a long time, and he's still doing it. And he still like has that ability to throw a flawless run, which I hear, you know, some people talk shit about it, but
fuck.
so it's still an amazing part for like somebody like Matthias to ride flawless, like Dom, Dub, when they ride flawless. It's still it's an amazing thing to be able to do that. It takes a lot of work that doesn't just happen. There's not that many people that can actually do that. As progressive as our sport is, there isn't a lot of people that can do that on the regular. I'm talking about, not just one-offs.
Yeah, of course. It's such a pleasure to watch and see, and in an environment where it's a big, you know, a lot of stuff on the line for that 2 or 2.5, 3 minutes. It's yeah, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It makes me unbelievably motivated to see that.
But also, I think it should be hard to win a contest. Like I was saying to the guys, you know, it should mean something to win a contest. Itchy blood, sweat, and tears. And then you get a podium where you see Dominic smiling for once. It's like the first time I've ever seen him smile. It's just like, it's awesome, but it's genuine. Like the guy couldn't hold it back. That's really what it's all about. And then Rio wins in Hiroshima. You can't script this stuff. And then, like I was even saying to my friend Valance before I went out to Montpellier, I'm like, he's not going to make it past semis. And he was like, how do you know this? I'm like, he's going to buckle under pressure. And also the psychology side of it, where Rio rode first in the finals in Hiroshima, maybe there wasn't as much pressure. Whereas if you he had to follow Matthias in the qualifying, there's a shitload of pressure. Who wants to go after Matthias after he's just thrown a no-touch run in Montpellier in his home country? I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, it's great to watch, man, and I appreciate all the work that you've done with the judging side of it. And I know I speak for a lot of people that appreciate the judging work, and even more so appreciate the work with the website, man. Like that's a very, very valuable staple in our community. And like from everyone I know, thank you so much for doing all that work for us.
Oh, thank you. And there was also like one thing I didn't mention also with the website is like I just posted Stuart Monroe's new video, and you've got a guy like Matthias Tusek from Prague, and he's just done one of the bangers of the year. I know it already is already. I mean, I already knew he'd done it, but because he sends me every goddamn video he's ever done. But I mean, it's awesome to help people like him grow. Like I remember, you know, Thomas Neuer, I felt like I helped him sort of blow up a little bit, like by recognizing his talent. Like Beckman, I remember I voted him Rider of the Year one year, and people were like, "Who's this dude?" I'm like, "Yeah, you don't have to be famous to be cutting edge. It's open to everybody."
Yeah, well, as somebody who would, you put those videos up and we watch them, and that's how I learn about these people. So it's, yeah, people like me wouldn't have any clue if it wasn't for kind of the way you sift through things and then selectively put them out. It's yeah, it's very much appreciated, man.
Yeah, you pretty much have to be an editor, quite literally. That's one of the biggest things I learned from, running a website, because, I'm not an expert in running a website. It's just something that I've just sort of fallen into, and I'm like, shit, I've got all these videos. How am I going to make a difference? Like, I think I was talking to Mateus at Cologne one year, and he was like, oh, yeah, I love the website, Effraim, but I can't watch all these videos. And I'm like, yeah, I need something that separates it. And then I was just sat here one day updating, and then I was like, must watch just came to my head, and I'm like, I'm going to do it. And that's become a thing now where people search for it also.
Yep.
And it also kind of sucks though on the flip side when they send me it and they're like, come and watch my must watch video. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Did you say that? Like, that's the unfortunate. Yeah, it's just unfortunate side of it. But I mean, it's a good thing for the culture. Again, going back to that word again, going back to what I was saying about responsibility, that's all coming into this picture that I'm building, basically.
That's great of you to do that, and it's great for you to kind of talk about everything with me here today. I really, really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love all these podcasts because, every time I ride, I have a podcast on. I listen to Hospital Records a lot, drum and bass podcast here in the UK. That's really what got me started into the podcast thing. Before, like, I saw any BMX people doing it, I was just like, this is pretty cool. We need this in Flatland. So it's just difficult, as you're talking to me on Skype now, and you're in Canada and I'm in Southsea in the UK. Like, this wouldn't be possible without technology. So I'll just try and catch up with people at contests and do stuff, but it takes hours. Like that Pete Brandt interview was like 25 hours editing. It was a long ass time.
Well, it's out there for the world to see now forever, and a lot of people.
It's archived. Exactly what I'm saying. It's archived, and it's like one of the best dudes in the game that everyone needs to pay attention to. And I always have this thing where I say respect the architects, and that's one thing I really think that the Flatland world could do a lot more, is respect the guys that have made it what it is today. Everyone contributes something, right? Like, I think everyone does. They might not realize it, but they do. And they all contribute to what we love and make it such a good thing. And it's awesome. But also the guys that have really gone one step and beyond, Kevin Jones, the list goes on, Chase Guin, Pete Brandt, Jesse Puente, modern day, I think Martin for the sport and the art form of Flatland. That's why I called him the boss. Like, no one was calling him that before that, and I'm like, you are literally the boss, just in his riding, but just his attitude and everything he's doing, like with the master of creativity. These are things for helping ride get himself out there, and like new people get recognized. Like Cisse Van Berkel's trick last year was awesome.
Let's do another
Yeah.
one sometime. This was really cool, man. I was looking forward to doing this with you, and I mean, we could talk for hours and hours. I'm sure as we hang up here, I'll think of a dozen things that I forgot to talk to you about.
Yeah, we can do it again. That's no problem.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. Like, I really appreciate the time, and I thank you a lot for everything you do, even just to do this, but also with Flat Matters and the judging and everything. It's really great for the sport, man. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for taking the time to do this as well, Dusty. It's rad. Like, I'm pretty stoked that you invited me to be on here. Honor. Thanks a lot.